Hi, Mike Harvey, Harvey Coachworks. We're here to look at the 52 Ford Custom. We've done some videos as we were building. This is kind of the finished product, so we're going to walk through it quickly. Won't take too long, and we'll show you basically what we've done. A lot of it's safety improvements. We can start right over here. We rerouted the high voltage cables that were running along the frame. They were metal conduits, so now they're in Carlon, front to back. We added a fuse here, 400 amp fuse with a fuse holder here, which you can see. There's one on each side. We recabled the pack, and we added these battery hold downs and rebuilt the battery box so the batteries aren't moving around. So the way to water these, and we tried to make it so you didn't need a tool to water the batteries. So basically all you need to do is unscrew this. Slide that out, and now you can get to your batteries to water them. Same holds true for the other two boxes in the rear. These are flooded batteries, so they do take a lot of water. This is basically just a piece of wood with a piece of 1 by 1/2 inch channel and some foam, just to relieve some of the pressure on it. And when you're done, you just kind of slip it all back in, and you're done. So in order to provide access to this, we removed an old cable lift and added this 2.5 inch cylinder and hydraulic power unit in the rear. That's a 3,000 pound cylinder we really didn't need, but the power unit is 1,500 pound. Power unit is 12 volt. Power up, power down, so you don't have to really wait for it to come down. These are the solenoids. Cables all running through there. So then we got a separate 250 amp 12 volt fuse there. We move around to the other side. Here's the J1772 inlet. We made the mount on a 45, so you can plug in a charging station plug, which you know, maybe you don't, is kind of angled. So we couldn't put it this way because of the running board, so we made it on an angle at 45. Then you plug it in like that. And then you'll notice it's not charging yet. And the reason is because we want to make sure that when we're plugging straight into the wall and not a charging station, we don't get any kind of arcing across those contacts. It's dangerous. So what we do is we enable charging with that button right there, and that turns on the AC and powers up the NG3 and a 12 volt trickle charger back there. It also does, NG3 is just kind of sensing up. What it also does is powers up a 110 volt transformer, 220 to 110, that's in this enclosure. It's got a fan underneath to cool the transformer, but that powers this trickle charger, as well as a 110 plug behind the seat. And the reason for the 110 plug behind the seat, I don't know if you can get that. Can you see that? I can get that right there.
The red thing?
Yeah. So that plugs into the transformer in the front. It can take a heater, like a 300 to 500 watt cabin heater, and the whole idea behind that is so that you can heat the vehicle, the cabin, in the wintertime and not pull off your battery pack using the toaster heater that's in there. So we try to preheat it. There's a dual 5 amp 250 volt AC fuses in that enclosure, so if someone tried to plug something in that was too big, it would blow those AC fuses instead of blowing a transformer. So that's kind of the charging system. This is standard NG3 19 amp to stage level 2 charger, so it does the job pretty well. for the vehicle. So some other things in the front to notice, we built some enclosures for some of the low voltage stuff. In here is a DC-DC enabled contactor, key switch interlock, charger interlock, and some ground and ignition posts. That enclosure, as I mentioned before, is really the 220 to 110 transformer in enclosure 2. There's an AC relay as well as the charge enable relay for the trickle charger, which we isolate until that charge button is on. This charge button also enables the charger interlock, so you can't drive the vehicle while the switch is on. So you can't charge with it off. And you can't drive with it on. So it's kind of a safety feature. You could theoretically turn this off and drive right now, but if you turn it off, you're going to be aware that you probably you're plugged into the wall. So it's a two-step thing. It's intentional. So you charge enable, and then the chargers, both chargers, the 12 volt and the HV charger, both charge. And then when you want to drive, you have to turn that off, and that disables the charger interlock relay. Some other things to note: we put in a 50 amp 12 volt main here that shuts down all the 12 volts, so there's no draw off the auxiliary battery. The other thing, and because there's a power hood on this, if the 12 volt battery were to die, there would be no way to get to the auxiliary battery, so we added a jump point here, which you can get to from under the vehicle in case the 12 volt battery were to be dead or not charged enough to be able to lift the hood or turn over the DC-DC converter. So just some safety and some convenience features we added. There was a knife switch way down in the front there, but it was all rusted. One other thing we did was we moved the throttle. So the PB6 was mounted up here, and it came through this. The throttle cable came through this hole. And the reason we moved it was because in order to water the front batteries, it was kind of a convoluted process. So we decided to move the throttle and then run the wires through this 14-pin Molex here. So what I'm going to show you now is how we lift this whole panel with no tools in order to water the front battery pack. We've labeled the steps A through H, but before you do anything, I should have done this while I was over there. You should never be charging while you're doing this, so I'm going to unplug it from the charging station. Turn the charge enable off. I'm going to disable the 12 volt at that main. And now we're gonna lift the panel. So we're labeled A through H. A is the negative side of the high voltage pack. So we secure them with these 1/4 wing nuts to make sure that they don't pull out while you're driving. So you just loosen that and pop that off. So that's A. B is under here, where we have a Anderson connector connecting the two motor terminals. So we take that out. C is the positive, which is right here. This is the high voltage positive. So once those first three steps are done, you're basically there's no high voltage left on top. I tend to put everything here on this little coil tower. So that's C. D is this is the high voltage voltmeter. E is the heater, which is mounted here. Heater fuses are in here. Coincidentally, 250 volt 1 amp voltmeter fuse is also right here. So that's A, B, C, D, and E. Then we move to the other side. We do this intentionally. F is that 16-pin Molex, or 14-pin Molex. So you unscrew that, and that's all of your low voltage coming to the front. And then G would be this thumb knob, stainless washer, and then last but not least, on the other side, same thing. H, thumb nut, knob, a stainless washer, And then the whole panel lifts up. And you just feed the high voltage positive through there. Now once it's elevated, you probably don't want to put a prop rod in here, but the whole point of this is now you can get to these batteries as well, including this, which is also a flooded battery. Only because we do pull a lot of current, raising and lowering the hood and the bed. We decided that a water battery was better than an AGM, because while you're in here watering anyway, you might as well water your 12 volt. So these straps are just basically for vertical restraint. We reboxed all the batteries in the rack, and on the bottom of all the battery racks, front and back, is white poly, which is battery acid resistant, and it has a lip in the rears. They have a lip that catches it and kind of moves it to the side away from the battery rack itself. These are just kind of flat because they're solid angle, so these are pretty much just pull and release, and then you just kind of hand tighten them down, and it's basically to stop the batteries from flying up in the air in case you hit a bump or something. Obviously this thing is not very crash worthy because it doesn't have front and rear bumpers, but here you can see the throttle and cable with the return spring, everything kind of wired into that 14 pin Molex, and then into the top rack. So that's how you lift this. There are some gas lifters here, but I don't recommend trusting them because they're not really holding it up right now. So I usually use a prop rod, of some kind, a paint stick, doesn't really matter. A couple other things we want to show you is we did a little work on the interior. We made a console here. This is where the NG3 used to be. There was a big NG5 there and a big generator system in the box in the back. So we rebuilt this box and gave her cover and moved her fire extinguisher inside, and rebuilt this dash. There's an airlift in here, airbag lifter, which has a pump built in and a release. So to fill it, just basically hit the fill button. Should be running about 30 pounds of pressure. Feels pretty good. It loses about a pound a day, I'd say, which, for what it is pretty good. But the reason we added this was because the suspension in the rear and its only leaf springs couldn't really support the weight of the batteries. It wasn't robust enough. So you can see back here where we added these lift bags on both sides, and you can see the air lines running up through there. So that gives it a whole lot more vertical height, and the other thing it helps avoid is any kind of interference with the U-joint down here from this lifter here, the hydraulic lifter for the bed. So it handles, I think, a lot better at that height, and it's not quite as mushy a ride. It does drive and handle like a truck, because it is a truck. It is a 52 Ford. I think that's other things to note. Well, we realigned the hood and did a bunch of other things. I can show you under here where the J1772 charging station setup is. So, wait if you can get in there. So, there's your logic control board, and there's your charge enable relay that runs off this switch and sends a 12 volt signal to the front to enable and disable things based on the logic that we talked about earlier. Everything else in there was pretty standard. We did have a little space there, which was convenient for us. That's pretty much it. We're gonna lower the hood and the rear and probably take this thing out for a lift, for a little quick spin. So Wayne's gonna ride shotgun, and we'll take it for a little spin. So this got damaged by, there was a fire in the generator system in the rear. That all got removed, but when the fire department came, I guess their immediate thing is to lift the hood, and when they lifted the hood, they damaged hinges in the front. So we did a couple little realignment here to make sure that we resealed well and there's no water getting into the getting onto that top board. And everything's coming in. You see it fits nicely now. And then we'll drop the rear. Exit moves a little bit faster.
Man, you ever just wanna go riding around, no worries? Well, that's this kind of song. Yeah, alright. This is for everybody out there, circling the town square, proud to be stuck out in the middle of nowhere. USA, Chevrolet, Dodge and Ford, raising a little hell and praising the Lord. Yes, sir. Just simple truth speaking, working for the weekend. Every time it hits the fan, you just keep on keeping. You tried and true, red, white, and blue. Turn it up, man, this one's for you. Woo!
Hey, hey, this is for the driving around, jacking downtown, anywhere Saturday night. Yeah, this is for the back road, turning up the radio, heading right where the two-lane turns into Main Street, cruising the same streets, over in the passenger seat. Baby, ain't never looked better, just singing along to this driving around song.
Yeah, I know what I'm talking about. I grew up in them rural routes, count down them days till I got brave enough to bust out. City lights in my sights, I was gonna do it upright. Now I'm sitting here with this guitar tonight, alright, kicking it in the big town, wishing I'd have slowed it down. And I'd give anything if I was driving around with them big dreams in my pocket. Yeah, this is for the ones who don't know how good they got it. Woo!
Hey, hey, this is for the driving around, jacking downtown, anywhere Saturday night. Yeah, this is for the back roads, turning up the radio, heading right where the two-lane turns into Main Street, cruising the same streets, over in the passenger seat. Baby, ain't never looked better, just singing along to this driving around song.
Alright, everybody, get in your truck, get in your car, whatever it is.
Hey, hey, hey.
Small town America, baby. We going driving around. Come on!
Hey, this is for the driving around, checking downtown, anywhere Saturday night. Yeah, this is for the back roads, turning up the radio, heading right where the two-lane turns into Main Street, cruising the same streets, over in the passenger seat.
Your
Baby, ain't never looked better, just singing along to this driving around song.
block.